Good evening. Is that working? Sounds weird. Welcome to the Wednesday, July 23rd City Council special meeting. Looks like everybody is here and accounted for. We can start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Thank you. Looks like we don't have any citizen comments, so we'll move on to 4. Approvals and authorizations. The following items are for discussion, consideration, and action. 4A, resolution number 536-072025, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Garden Ridge, Texas, approving fiscal year 2025 General Fund Budget Amendment Number 2 for the period of October 1st, 2024 through September 30th, 2025. I'll hand it over to our city manager to review.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is the second budget amendment. I appreciate all Robin's work on this. If you have any specific questions, she's available. This was to obviously review what has increased from the revenue side and then what has decreased by expenditures in both general and water fund. Essentially, some of the things that were projected in the first amendment actually are a decrease in savings, just highlighting some of the money that was put into the Civic Center, which is a drastic reduce of what we were trying to accomplish there with the new audio video system and some other improvements. Originally, that was about $150,000. We dropped that to only going to spend about $78,000 with other interior, exterior improvements and new kitchen appliances that we've reviewed. So, and then the Bat Cave was originally about $475,000. Of course, you all know the bid was about $312,000. There was significant savings there. And then the Vista Ridge, the interconnect, has been moved to next year. So that makes up the larger amount of what is the decrease. That city fund balance remains strong, increasing available reserves from 10 to 13 months in line with best financial practices. So those are some highlights of what changed from first to second amendment based on savings in some projects. I can turn it over to Robin specifically if she wants to add some points or if you have any questions, Council. And then also, well, we'll get to that one. That's on the water side. So.
I don't really have anything to add. Tried to cover all of the specific line items that were going to be changed in the agenda form in that memo. And like Ryan said, we are moving some of those projects. We had some significant savings on the community center and then saving on the Vista Ridge pipeline tie-in by the way that they've been negotiating some of those things. So we are moving it to 2026 and even saving on the tie-in as well. So these are good changes. We did increase some of our building maintenance in the general fund for some also renovations that we're going to be doing in City Hall as well. So those are also reflected in this amendment.
Yeah, originally in the first amendment, there was $10,000 added to that line item. But as we've moved through to look and evaluate City Hall, there's interior and exterior improvements that we want to do. So we moved that line up to $40,000. It's essentially the money that was saved from the Civic Center work from that standpoint. And then some of the savings from the Bat Cave, we shifted that into engineering to move forward with the street classification study, which was about $34,000 to get all our streets evaluated to start putting together our street CIP. So, anything else, Robin?
That's it.
That's it.
Thank you, Robin, and thank you, sir. Thank you for all your hard work on this. Same to you, Ryan. Y'all have been at it for a while, so thank you. So, council, questions, discussion?
Then can I get a motion?
Motion to approve resolution number 536-072025, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Garden Ridge, Texas, approving fiscal year 2025 general fund budget amendment number 2 for the period of October 1st, 2024 through September 30th, 2025.
Okay, got a motion on the table. Can I get a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? We call it to a vote?
Aye.
Aye.
Oh, sorry. Aye, I heard ayes. Okay. The ayes have it. I was waiting for somebody to like to recap it for some reason. I'll get it right eventually. It's going to take me a little while. Heckle away, it's okay. All right, so 4B, resolution number 537-072025, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Garden Ridge, Texas, approving fiscal year 2025 water company operation and maintenance fund budget amendment number 2 for the period of October 1st, 2024 through September 30th, 2025. Over to you, Ryan.
Again, Mayor and Council, this is just an amendment in the water, that obviously moving the Vista Ridge interconnect is a big portion here. There is, as indicated, revenues are projected to decrease primarily due to decreased water sales, about 182,000, postponement of that Vista Ridge tie-in, and then minor adjustments in sales assets, credit card user fees, and bank interest revenue. The expenditures are reduced by $1,074,000, but there are increases in certain line items within water, and then of course a decrease in capital outlay as a result of not doing the ground storage tank until next year, and then postponement of the Vista Ridge tie-in. Again, I think it brings it to still about 6 months or 7 months of the fund balance. Robin, anything else that I missed?
Thank you, Robin. So, any discussion, council? Any questions?
I have one quick question. Why did we push the storage tank rehab back into next year? I thought that was getting pretty bad.
I think it's, Stephen can probably elaborate. Hank gave an update. I think it had to do with when we would be bidding that out. And I think it's this fall when we would bid it out and then go to construction. So thus, no dollars would be spent this fiscal year.
Are we worried about it sitting around for another 6 months or anything?
No, I think the idea is to go out for bid. I think he has it ready for October. So as soon as the budget's adopted for October 1st, it'll be ready for bid. But I'll ask Hank to make sure and find out where we're at. I don't know if you remember, Stephen. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, that sounds about right. And plus, we also have to make sure that the rehab would be in the fall months for water usage is the least because of demand. So that's one of the things that has to be a definite is it has to be in the October to January, February timeframe. And
That makes a lot of sense. Thanks.
Be down about a month probably.
So the timing factor. So.
Good to know. Thank you. Anybody else have any questions? No? Can I get a motion to approve the resolution?
I'll make a motion to approve resolution number 537-072025, a resolution of the City of Council of the City of Garden Ridge, Texas, approving fiscal year 2025 water company operation and maintenance fund budget amendment number 2 for the period of October the 1st, 2024 through September the 30th, 2025.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Second. Okay, we can bring it to a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it, no opposed. So on to 4C, fiscal year 2026 proposed budgets for the City of Garden Ridge. Back to Ryan.
Thank you, Robin. Appreciate it. Mayor and council, this is obviously our budget workshop number 2 for the development of the proposed budget as we move forward towards to the adoption. Tonight, we'd like to cover the following areas. And let me just make sure. There we go. So we'll look at the general fund overall, an overview of revenue versus expenses, and then we'll go down through each department, the proposed budget, requests that are already programmed in, and then some that are not programmed in accordingly. But we wanted to cover, again, the administration through the general fund capital. And first, let me start with saying thank you, Robin, for all the work you did. I really, I just fine-tuned it, but she did all the presentation, and I did a memo to summarize what we would be talking tonight, so hopefully everybody reviewed that just to make sure, because we do have about 35 to 40 slides, and I'll try to go through those pretty quick, but I want to make sure that we as staff are detailed and thorough, and every aspect of the budget, both revenue and expenditures. And any questions you might have on whatever line item is spent, we want to make sure we have that answer for y'all, so y'all know exactly what the process is, what we're spending, because at the end of the day, y'all are making the decision to adopt the budget. And then we'll go over the water portion of their personnel all the way down to the water capital. We will also look at personnel review. I'm not sure if that's ever been included in past budgets to show how many people we have working for the city and what that cost is. And then we'll look at the debt portion, interest and sinking budget, and then capital improvements budget, and then the meeting schedule, and then questions. So we will start with our general fund overview, showing that we are expenditures of $5,071,055, and then obviously on the revenue side, we're at $4,240,891. So right now, balancing the budget is a shortage covered by revenue of $837,864. Now it's primarily all capital expenditures. So if you looked at them right there under capital expenditures, if you took out that $1.9 million for the work that needs to be done under capital, we'd actually be on the positive side of revenue, I believe, about $140,000. But we have projects that need to get done. That again leaves about 10 months in the reserves. Just real quick, we'll go over the administrative budget here. That total is $970,060. This is a line item for personal services, and then professional, and then each line item. So does anybody have any questions about what particular line items within this? And I'll just ask if y'all have any questions within the department's line item, particularly how it's kind of budgeted. We looked at the last 5 years, and then of course the variance there in that column. As we go through it, we have city support, staff support, operational support. And then down here again, as I mentioned, the total administrative budget of $970,060. So the funded request, and I'll start with the COLA. Typically we look at what other cities are doing. It seemed to be a good opportunity to look at a few cities, and right now they're doing about 3%. That's not to say that y'all have to say 3%. You could give staff more, but obviously within the funds available. We're adding certification pay for under the municipal clerks, and then computer laptop replacements. And then since you did hire me, I am a member of TCMA, and I like to maintain my membership from that standpoint. And then City Council to attend the TML conference in Fort Worth. We're making sure that money is appropriated accordingly for anybody who wants to attend that conference. Any questions so far? Municipal court. So here is a change. Right now we're looking for the position was a court clerk position, and we've now changed that to a court administrator and additional funds to recruit a court administrator. And so this is something that we talked about during our budget meetings, that would be a good thing to change that position to attract someone who has better experience and has certifications at certain levels in municipal court. And hopefully that comes to fruition. There's a qualified applicant meeting all those standards on Friday. So hopefully we'll see how that goes.
Do you want questions as you're going?
Mm-hmm.
So what's the difference between a court clerk and a court administrator?
A court clerk it's more of an administrative function. A court administrator has different levels of certification, is more involved with the judge during the, I'd say from the prosecution standpoint, from start to finish. It has to do with the level of certification. So like right now, Tina.
Okay, I understand that. It's just a higher level of qualification. How's that going to help our court? I'm just curious.
So I would just say that in most cities, bigger cities, they have a court administrator and then they have at least one court clerk under that person. In our city, since we are so small, the person that is in what was the court clerk position is doing everything with the court. They're the one responsible for the monthly reports, the annual reports, communicating with the state, working with the judge. So really, it should have been a court administrator this whole time. We haven't really needed to evaluate it because the previous court clerk had been here so long. But when we when we first posted that position, I was noticing when I was seeing other positions that were posted for either court clerk or court administrator, what we are asking somebody to do in that position is more in line with the title of court administrator. And then the day after we changed it, we got a qualified applicant. It's the first applicant we've got with any prior experience in municipal court. So.
Got it. So you're just making the title and the certifications match the job description, basically?
Yes,
Okay,
correct.
thanks.
And as Marissa said, there was a very lack of candidates. We did during this time, I brought in Tina from Castle Hills to help out. She's a level 2 working on level 3, considered a court administrator there. So she's also come in and talked to Marissa and Michelle about some things to do here in municipal court, how to improve upon those things as well. So I think it's a very positive thing, and if we're able to, have this qualified candidate come and work with us moving forward, I think it'll be a very positive thing for court here in Garden Ridge. So, does that answer everything, sir? Okay.
Yes, sir, I'm good, thank you.
And then again, here's the bottom line here. And on the funding request, we put 3% COLA because it's across the board in every department, programmed in at a 3% right now for every department. And then, of course, change of court clerk position to administrator position with salary adjustment. Again, we want to focus on anything that we get requests for. We focused on the position, what that position entails for the city, whether they need certification, whether they need training. We're going to look at that to make sure we recruit and retain good employees moving forward. So we need to make sure we focus on the position itself and then what we're funding that position as well. So,
Brian, I had a question on that. On the certifications, is that rolled into what the budget is for that position, or is certifications separate from that? I know Robin's shaking her head yes.
yes.
So.
Yes.
Okay, just wanted to make sure.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, Robin. Thank you.
When in doubt, ask Robin. So, and then we'll get into the police department here. Again, same breakout here. We'll go through here, 3% COLA. And as you can see, the total has changed from $1,019,542 to the $1,096,452. That's programming in the 3% and then funds for a part-time code enforcement officer position. And then I'll go through here and at the bottom here, the total budget right now proposed $1,883,844. Again, 3% COLA. Under capital, the chief is asking for a new unit at $75,000, and then the code enforcement officer, and then chief has requested additional certification pay in these areas for different officers. Is that correct, chief? Across the board? It's not across the board, it's for certain officers who are certified in those areas. So, any questions so far on the police? We do have unfunded there on that side here that talks about the parking lot that was redone. Chief would like to see a cover there at some point, and then getting probably an additional officer to the total personnel of the police department. And I think operationally, Chief can expand on why that request is there, you know, having to do with shifts and the amount of police that we do have for Garden Ridge, so. Any questions in the police department?
Yeah, I mean, I'm curious about that extra position, and there's, I don't know, you typically have, what, $50,000 of overtime? Would that extra position solve some of that problem, or
It
is
would
that
sol-
two different issues?
It would solve some of that problem. A lot of the overtime that we use right now is for special events, such as 4th of July, tree lighting, all that kind of stuff. It would help with some of that. And right now, it's a little higher because when I did a manpower and resource allocation study several years back to determine how many officers we would need to put 2 officers on the street for patrol shifts at a time. We've been one shy of that for years, but it never could get funded. I've been asking for it. So we'd like to get that funded. So what that would do is allow, at this time, when somebody takes PTO, time off, personal time off, we don't have sick leave and vacation anymore. The PTO, then we have to shift somebody around from their normal shift to a cover shift, and we overlap for power shifts because we don't have enough to work 2 officers all night long on patrol that way. So this would allow us to balance the shifts out. Right now, they're offset. One's got one more than the other, so we have to move that person back and forth amongst shifts and change his schedule frequently. So this would allow us a little more stability in scheduling the officers out and, excuse me, and better coverage, of consistent coverage.
And Mayor and Council, so ultimately, as I showed you the overview of general fund, I showed you the balance that would be required to balance the budget. So anything outside that would be a council decision to add to that, what would be the transfer of that reserve. So any additional requests like this position would just add to that balance, correct? Robin says yes. So, and my goal is to eventually, obviously, file the budget with y'all proposed, and then we work through that towards adoption, and that could be a decision council makes on unfunded requests moving forward, like the chief has requested for that position.
Okay, so just to clarify, when do we ask for unfunded requests, or when does that get worked in?
So what I'll do is file the budget, and then we'll have a couple meetings. We'll have the tax rate, we'll go over the budget, and then ultimately, when we have the budget public hearing, y'all would have to take some kind of action on it. You don't have to adopt it that night, but you have to take some kind of action. So you would say, hey, can you add that position in there, or this request by this department?
Okay.
So then we bring back the final budget ready for adoption and ordinance on that September 3rd meeting.
Gotcha. And Chief, I'm assuming the parking lot cover over the new lot is to protect the vehicles, keep them from getting hot? What are we?
Yes, ma'am. That's for,
Okay.
we have 5 marked units, 4 unmarked. The 5 are under the old cover. So the other unmarked units are always out in the sun. Whenever bad weather's coming in, then we have to shift everything up under the community center cover if hailstorms are coming. So it'd be nice to be able to protect that area back there where city vehicles are.
Okay, thank you. Good to know.
Chief said he'd even give up a spot.
Mine's uncovered. You can have it.
What's that?
Mine's uncovered.
Okay. See, team player, Chief. Thank you, Chief. Any more questions for the chief on that position? Okay, we will continue. Public Works Department, again, going through the personnel, and then the line items for support, operational down to maintenance line items. Again, I've put an asterisk by that 80,000 because that's the amended 40,000 through what was just done through that amendment. So that's why if you look year to year and you're like, why is that 30,000 to 80,000? Because that building facility maintenance line item covers any maintenance or improvements for any of our facility, not just City Hall. So that line item houses all those expenditures, correct, Robin? So that's why that looks that way. So I just want to make a note there that that's why that looks the way it does. And then we go back to just 40,000, give or take, under building facility maintenance. And then overall, the Public Works Department budget proposed 794,333. Again, the 3% COLA. We've discussed, and I'll start by saying the reason why we looked at like the court administrator and then these positions in Public Works and Utility is because there's a salary survey that is done by one particular city that has, I think it was 15 area cities that you use as a guide to see what other cities are funding positions at to make sure, again, we're competitive and we're able to retain employees. So we got an updated salary, Robin did. So we're able to compare positions with other nearby cities to make sure we're in line. And so part of that and looking at the Public Works representatives that we're a little below some of those cities. And so we would be doing a 7% in that area to 4 positions, again, to be competitive and stay in line with area cities. Certification pay, as it reads, backhoe certification, trainer, pesticide license, and then of course under the general fund, we would have the purchase of lawnmower and equipment there in Public Works, and that outlines the particular equipment and cost there. So there's no unfunded request in Public Works. Any questions on Public Works?
Quick question. A couple years we did a tour, Stephen, and we had talked about possibly that the security cameras and the equipment was subpar and might need upgraded. Have we done that yet?
Yes, we've replaced most of the old equipment in the Public Works and
Okay,
Community
cool,
Center.
cool, awesome, thank you.
Okay. Council, any more questions on Public Works? Okay. Mayor? Sorry. Community Center. Here, increase for Community Center Manager. As you know, Kim is retiring, so we're gonna put out for the position to find someone to run the Community Center. And so we've discussed about an increase for that position. So the new total proposed would be 83,043 for the department. Let me go through here. Sorry, let me go back. As the total budget, so an increase of about 1425 to the position for the community center manager. So we're probably going to be looking to replace that early fall as the budget is adopted after October. So to fill Kim's position. So we want to be able to recruit and hire someone who has the right knowledge and skills and abilities to run the Civic Center moving forward. So, any questions in the Civic Center? And I will say, you know, once we're done with all the improvements, we'll review probably rates at some point to make sure that we're in line and we're capturing sort of a payback of what we've invested into the Civic Center. Library. So total expenditures, 190,378, and the funding requests, I'll go through the next page. You see the total at the bottom, of course, a 3% COLA, and then the funded request is taking the library assistant position and turning it into an assistant library director, and then additional 10% salary increase. This would move from hourly to salary. This would actually eliminate overtime in that position. And then we also have put in money for an increase in training for the new assistant library position. So Linda's going to be outlining some educational and programs for this position, for attending to continue to not only increase the salary at some point, but increase the position as well. Then of course, library materials, request for books at 2,000, 1,500, and then 8 tablets for Lego robotics, computer replacements. So increase in special events, and then as a whole, we've been looking at the cleaning. So we're going to be taking a look at that as well, the cost for the current services we use, revisiting that cost for City Hall and the library. So, Robin, anything else? Okay. Mayor, Council, any questions? Under capital, again, as I mentioned, that expense of $1,009,000, and there is the breakdown, starting with the new police unit, and then the matching trails grant for Paul Davis Park. If mentioned before council, we got a grant for about $130,000 for the new trails at Paul Davis Park. We have to come up with a matching of $33,000, but Robin has informed me we have to show it as a total expense because we will eventually get the total revenue to cover what was the $133,000 for auditing purposes. Correct, Robin? Okay. So we show it under capital. And then obviously we listed the equipment from Public Works there, and then the loan for the Vista Ridge Connect there at $660,000, sorry, which gives you that $1 million for capital expenditures. Any questions so far? Okay. Robin, go ahead.
I can just point out, council could decide to spend as much as they want to improve the trails at Paul Davis Park. The matching grant is for the $133,000, and the minimum, so that $167,000 is the minimum that the city would need to put into that to get the matching grant.
Well, we don't have a time frame, I don't think yet, of when we receive the funds.
I haven't received any communication back yet from them.
So again, that's why I think we're projecting and programming this to the 26 budget after October 1st, because I think any of the design / construction will be obviously, if it's not late fall, will be early spring on it, based on that time frame of the grant. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Again, going back to the general fund overview, the total revenue, showing the 10-month there for the reserves, and then the $830,864. As I mentioned, that would be the balance that would be the shortage covered by reserves to balance the budget because of the capital expenditures. Knowing that, again, any requests that are not in there would add to that balance to be covered by the reserves. Any questions you have on the overview?
I was gonna say, and so just to confirm, I think I already read this at the beginning, but the overages that are the shortages, that still leaves us with the 10-month surplus?
Yeah, they're at the bottom there. It's 10 through
There
the
is,
budget
okay,
amendment
okay.
we just did tonight. We had 13, so that brings us down to 10.
Okay.
Again, primarily due to the $1 million in capital expenditures.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. Just kind of going through from an illustration, I wanted to be able to show you here that 64% is the ad valorem collections, all the way down to what we have court miscellaneous. So I just want to give you all a graph to show actually what that looks like from a revenue standpoint, showing you what the pieces of pie look like. And then again, under the general fund expenditures, here's the breakdown with each department and the totals. And 660,000 is from the water loan down there at the bottom as well for the total. But 58% is personnel, the budget. Primarily, most cities or majority of cities, your personnel budget is going to be 60 to 70% of a city's budget. Any
Hey,
questions
Ryan,
here?
on the previous
sir.
slide, what was franchise?
16%, about 686,000.
No, I see that, but what is it? What is franchise?
That's, breakdown of that's like our CPS, our utility fees that we get, Republic, go ahead.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay.
Yes, CPS, our water franchise, the Republic services. We have telephone, gas lines. That's a small percentage of it. Yeah.
Does that answer your question, sir? Does that answer, okay. Okay, general fund here, and then we're gonna go over the water. So here is an overview versus revenue versus expenditures, totaling the $3,155,100 balanced obviously 0, and then giving you the 6 months reserve there. The water fund, we'll go through this here. Obviously personnel, the line items are similar structure to the general fund. And then going through here, all the way down from operational to compliance services. And then there's the bottom line of $3,155,100. Funded requests, again, the 3% COLA. Here, this is where the utility operators are funded out of. We have 3 positions we've looked at and have recommended the 7% increase, again, to keep competitive with area cities in that same type of service. Here, utilities quick response trailer 2,000, chlorine bottle scale 2,300, and then under capital expenditures, to alleviate some space and dedicate an area for water headquarters, the old city hall, our old public works building. We would transform that into the water utilities department there. And then of course, this is where we've captured the ground storage tank for the 240, and then the Vista Ridge tie-in project. Unfunded on-demand contractor for 20,000, and 2 of 2 of chlorine bottle scale 23,000. The on-demand contractor was, and Stephen can elaborate, is if there is work that needs to be done on our water lines, that it's something our public works can't handle, then we go to an on-demand contractor that can handle the infrastructure at the time, right? Like main break or, you know.
Yeah, say there was like something major at a major intersection where a water line was going underneath it. We'd need a little bit more help with that than what we could handle, because that would be pretty much digging a pit and pulling a 60-foot section out, or anything that's just a massive break or something like that. And within that time, if we didn't have anything like that, we could dedicate that money to replacing valves that need to be replaced within the city to isolate water quicker. So yeah, it's basically a backup in case there's something that's too big for us to handle. It needs to be handled quickly.
It's a quick way to outsource that work.
So is that
especially
like,
on
is
demand.
that like a flat fee, or is it paid per job,
So-
or what does that look like?
So we've talked about how an agreement would work. It would obviously come to city council at some point to where there'd be a structured agreement that if Stephen needs the on-demand work, they would quickly assess and give a price. So we can sort of pull the trigger faster from that standpoint. But obviously, depending on the work that needs to be done, that's gonna dictate the price for either repairs or something in those lines. But I think it's more about the ability to have someone quick to help us out in that situation. Correct, Stephen?
Yes.
Okay. Any questions in the water here based on funded?
You know, he probably answered this. I'm sorry, I just couldn't hear. But so
Uh-huh.
what are we doing right now if we had a situation like this without the demand contractor? What are we doing right now if something like this was to
We'd
happen?
we'd have to search and find one on a pretty quick. We'd have to go through any type of major water line contractors and find out what their price is and kind of start narrowing it down to the lowest cost.
That'd be like an RFP, or is that an RFP thing, or is that just?
Well, I think it helps through like the procurement because we'd actually have to get sort of quotes. It's sort of that time you save to get something addressed, right? I've used one in previous city where we needed street work to be done like ASAP. And instead of going and getting quotes and finding a contractor like Steven says, we have one on demand already ready to go. So.
Can you tell us a little bit more about the renovation of the Public Works building?
Yes, what we're looking at is, that used to be the main Public Works building for water and Public Works back before 2006. We had all the animals in there and everything else. Right now, the air conditioner needs a new air handler in it. It needs some major ceiling work to make it office space again. Change out water heaters, update the bathroom and showers, put a fence around it so it's more secure and everything like that, and maybe even a partial covering so we could have equipment put under there so it's not in the direct sun. Right now, the water department's in a tiny little office next to the dog kennel, so it's kind of cramped and everything. And when we start getting more, the sewer more online, we'll need to separate certain parts from the water and the sewer, so that'll give us the room to do so also.
It allows for the expansion of the footprint for the water department. It'll free up some space at Public Works that Stephen has ideas for to assist with the facility there
Yes,
for
like it's-
operations. So it's sort of a trickle effect. You address this one, and then after that, we'll probably come forward with some improvements at the Public Works facility itself. Correct, Stephen?
Yes.
Sounds great, thank you.
Any other questions, Mayor and Council? Okay. Water fund overview, again, this is just highlighting the total revenue versus expenditures, showing the 6 months. Again, water revenue here, 70%, 72% is the sales that comprise the 3,155,000. And then the expenditures, here's a breakdown from the personnel. Obviously, the two primary expenditures being capital outlay and then debt service in combination with the with the personnel. So, any questions? I told Robin we like illustrations, so. Payroll details for the general fund and water fund.
You went a little fast. I missed a question that I had in my notes. I forgot to
Can we
ask.
go back to that slide?
It was a water expenditures, a SCADA line of, it's line 70310. I was just looking at it, it looks like it's going up significantly from 25 to 26.
Did you say 71?
70310. Operational support, there you are.
Yeah.
I thought I saw it going up. Maybe I'm wrong
I
here.
think you're looking at the 70201, which is the
Sure.
next line down from the 70310. Computer hardware and software.
No,
So
it's
the
definitely labeled SCADA.
SCADA, yes, the SCADA system needs some updates, and Stephen was requesting about 13,000 for those updates.
Right, so my only point about that, I know, Stephen, we talked about this before, that SCADA system's getting pretty old, right?
Yes.
So if we just make sure that that gets covered, because I think you, also in here, you have a capital improvements review from an engineer or something like that, a study that's happening. I think that's actually on the 25 budget. But I would really hope that that SCADA system is part of that discussion as the prices maintenance keeps going up, we might want to look at that, right?
Yeah, it's for replacing the two computer towers, the main server and the hot standby as the backup. And they basically recommend every 4 years, replace those out and get more current software and everything like that. So that's the main thing on that one.
Yeah, and I'll talk to Hank to make sure that's being captured as well.
Thanks.
Go through water, and then again, we're gonna go through the payroll details here. Let's see. So when you look at the overall total of 35 positions, it's at a cost of $3,658,402. So this accounts for every personnel and every department here totaling the 35. And then the police department makes up 46% of that, so. Sorry, Chief, I didn't mean to show that. But it's part of having a good police department, 46%. He'd rather have it at 48, maybe, 49? So, we could round it up, Chief. Yeah. Yes, that would definitely be split in my prior cities, so. Okay, and then again here, this is just a summary here of what the funded requests are through the departments, and then the unfunded requests. Under the unfunded requests, I'll show on the next slide is TMRS. A lot of cities have a 7% 2-to-1, and that's more and more what cities have gone to. So when you're trying to recruit, whether that's police, fire, or any employee, it's something they consider when they're moving from city to city. Right now, we're at a 5% at the 2-to-1. I know specifically police officers look at that pretty intensely when they're looking at changing agencies as well. And, you know, I had a discussion when I first got here with Chief, and he said to me, that's something that has been on the radar for a few years to evaluate to see if it's affordable for us to change that. Correct, Chief? So I just wanted to make sure we had that discussion. And then, as you can see, this is the current 5%, 2 to 1. Anything within those columns, I will defer to Robin specifically on the retirement line items there. But if we were to change to just 6% at 2 to 1, it's an increase of about 110,573. And then looking down at option 3, which is what most cities fall under, majority. And I'd have to find out. TMRS did it when I was in Castle Hills 2 years ago. We changed from 7% to a 1 1/2. And so that was a big thing to go to 7% and 2 to 1. So we had a representative from TMRS come in, sort of give you a whole breakdown of what that looked like, because it was going to be a big jump from year to year in the retirement costs. But most cities, and they gave a survey to show you how many cities were on 7%, 2 to 1, which was, I would probably say 90% of the cities in Texas are on that, if not a little bit lower than that, 80 to 90%. Does that sound about right, Robin?
Yes, and then they did just vote this year to also include an 8% option.
Oh,
So
yeah, in the legislation,
that just
yeah.
happened. So
But-
that's,
So if we wanted to be in line with other cities' retirements, the 7% 2 to 1 there in option 3, that would be a total increase of 224,000. So I wanted to bring it to y'all's attention. I'm not sure if it's been discussed in prior budget discussions over the years, but we just want to bring it to the forefront, especially as we're going through this budget and talking about how we're improving not only certification and education and training, because we want to recruit the good employees talented employees we have, but we're also going to be looking for others in the future. So we just want to make sure we're in line when we are recruiting to be competitive with other cities, especially in the police department as well. So any questions in the TMRS? I just want to make sure I showed it to you. I promised Robin I would tonight, so. Interest in sinking, this is just a recap of our debt, showing what our total debt service payments, $1,107,000, and then of course the revenue that breaks down from our ad valorem tax collections that goes in to pay for the interest in sinking. Any questions on the debt service? We'll go through quickly on the capital. This is an area for what we have on the 26 is $266,573. There's water impact and street impact, and I asked Robin what that is, and it's funds that have been there for years that were dedicated for street work, for water, for possibly drainage improvements. She reached out to our auditors to get confirmation of how we could use those funds. My goal is if there's 65,000 sitting there and we're about ready to evaluate our streets, we need to start putting that towards maintenance. Instead of using the reserve or for any street improvements. So I think that we would be able to, and if we do have street project later after we go through the classification study and we set up a plan to address streets, we would just do an amendment last year to use any of those dollars. Correct? Okay. And then moving forward, as the next steps, we have Friday, August 1st, I'll file the budget with Marissa. By then, we should have our certified tax roll. We'll pass that on to City Council, and then look at the no new revenue voter approval. And then August 5th, the goal of that night is to go actually over the entire budget for what's been filed, and then discuss tax rate. And then that's where you would look at the calculations that have come in. And then, of course, the next night at the regular meeting, that's when you would propose a tax rate, and then take the steps to publish the tax and public hearing. And then the 25th is when we would have the budget public hearing. That would be the night that if you said, hey, we'd like to add that position in police, then that is what we would incorporate into the proposed budget. And then on Wednesday, September 3rd, we bring it forward, ready for adoption. So, any questions? I was trying to be fast with about 40 slides. But again, I promised Robin that we would show every slide, so. So there's no action tonight. Again, I'm just trying to be thorough in detail to give you an overview, both general and water, to look at what the department's proposed budgets look like, and then what they've requested.
I thought that was an excellent presentation, and I really like seeing what the departments request. It gives me a little more insight into what their needs are and what's going on in those departments, which is something that we've never really had before. So that in particular was really, really helpful.
Yeah, and I think, again, like I mentioned, you're elevating some of those positions. We're adding money to training, certification, those kind of things. It's bringing up those positions to be competitive, so we don't lose people.
Council, any other discussion? Any questions?
Yeah, I just want to thank Robin and Ryan. Yeah, this is a very good, thorough explanation of what is going on with the budget, and I just want to thank y'all for this, both of y'all. Thank you. Thank you.
It was entirely Robin, so.
Yes, thank you, Robin. I know you worked really hard on this, so thank you.
So, I'll leave it with that for
All right.
the next council meeting, and then what will happen is you'll get a copy of the filed budget that day, and then as soon as we get the certified tax rolls, we'll send that out, and then be ready for the August 5th meeting where we'll go over the budget in its entirety, and then take the next few steps towards adoption. So, but I appreciate your appreciate your time, council. Thank you. Forget to mention that I appreciate all staff, because we sat down in the back room and we were able to review requests, make changes on the fly with Robin within the spreadsheets, and sit down and actually hear each department's request and go through those. And I'm not sure if that's ever been done, but that's sort of the process to make sure that the departments are heard for what they need to continue to operate within their departments. So, thank you.
Thank you. That brings us to number 5, citizen comment period. You're not required to sign up, but must sign in with the city secretary after speaking. Limited to 1 2-minute period. Can't speak about same topic if you've spoken during first citizen comment period. Doesn't apply here. State name and address before comments begin. Do we have any takers?
Ladies and gentlemen, Mayor and City Council. Community center and the facilities, as all of us know, were built, thank God, free and clear, to my knowledge, with no debt. I do not know what the bonds are and what the interest rate on those bonds are, okay? And so we have driven our Lions Club, our Garden Ridge Women, to other areas, not because of the high rent that the community center, but like the Bible study group started $5 an hour, then $10. Anybody can pay $200, $300 per fall session or semester. So my thinking, we need to bring these people back, you know, instead of going to outside facilities. And that's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Albert, can you go sign in with Marissa, please? Thank you.
Sorry, I didn't see that over there.
You're good. That brings us to number 6, their adjournment. There being no further business, the city council special meeting is adjourned at 6:54 p.m.